Greetings to the gutted puppies, gal pals, and fresh audience members who have stumbled upon this film. It is not often suggested, but one of the best ways to understand the anatomy of cult films, the so-called orphans of cinema, is to look outside the typical cult film catalogue and towards filmmakers who have grown up on cult films, the kinds of writers and directors to which the rules have always been broken, and whom pay homage to cult archetypes in their own works. Some of these films break free, often being marketed as different to begin with, and become wild successes akin to Tarantino's debut film, Reservoir Dogs. Others, like Shane Black's directorial debut Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, fail, and become cult films in their own right. Vomit is one of these films, an homage to cult film infused with a variety of flavours from a range of cult film archetypes. Aiming to offend, gross out, and frustrate audiences, it failed. Or did it? Cult films fail initially because they are different. They offend, they challenge, but audiences return to them, primarily because they are the only films offering something memorable, something that scratches that particular, often unpopular or socially repressed itch. So now, on the 10th anniversary of the release of Vomit, it's time to return to the McMansion to see just what makes this film a forking good time. I apologise. As a big fan of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I found my mission early on, to make an homage to a film that is an homage to cult film. Beginning with the essence of a Shane Black film, the snappy dialogue, slapstick violence, the irreverent self-commentary and shifting morality, Vomit soon began to pull from classic cult archetypes. Heathers, an uber-dark high school romp, The Big Lebowski, which inspired a generation into becoming endearing slackers, and Reefer Madness, the ironically adored propaganda film about the horrors of marijuana. These films heightened four of the widely accepted cult film elements within my film: nostalgia, transgression, gore, and badness, and removed any clear genre distinction. Is Vomit a coming-of-age story? A mystery film? A horror film? An action thriller? A black comedy? As the scene begins, certain objects stand out, highlighting the use of... Most enduring cult films have benefited from nostalgia in two ways. Firstly, they coat their film with the vibe of a certain era, whilst being set elsewhere. A Clockwork Orange's 60s retro future, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang's neo-noir, The Big Lebowski could be set in 1978 just as easily as 1998. Secondly, these films have aged themselves, and their contemporary settings have faded into nostalgia as well. Vomit uses both layers of reminiscence to create a pleasant, albeit confusing, sense of ambiguity. It is set in 2005, 2 years before it was released, but includes elements from other distinct eras: the VW Beetle, the pinball machine, Diana Ross. From flip phones to TV dinners, Vomit manipulates nostalgia in an eclectic and purposefully distracting manner to create discussion and analysis while reflecting the chaos of Gal's world. From the moment Gal fails to heroically kick down the front door, it is clear that Vomit does not play by the rules. A complete divergence from the central plot in which a character cooks a lasagna because they have the munchies. A character moves from location to location by pure whim. A character kills an adorable puppy without repercussion. You can't do that. Well, why not? Like the Coen brothers before me, I intended to break and subvert all the rules. The death of the puppy is a particular sticking point, as it directly comments on film's dependency on killing canines in order to tap into high emotion. Cinemagoers have been conditioned to believe that killing a dog is even more sinful than killing a human, and places great weight on these scenes. It served as the excuse for Keanu Reeves ending hundreds of lives as John Wick. In Vomit, it's simply done to solve a problem quickly. As an extension of the cult film archetype badness, the film's cast also defies character logic. The protagonist isn't overly likable, an apathetic, narcissistic and drug-addicted 18-year-old, as are the supporting cast. In this scene, DJ is particularly patronizing and manipulative, his coarse language having a subconscious impact on the viewer. None of the characters truly want to see this story through, and are propelled through increasingly difficult situations until they are forced to make decisions. This takes the apathetic nature of The Big Lebowski even further, combining it with the antagonistic cast from Reefer Madness. Throughout the scene, all of Gal's ungracefulness harbours consequences. Shane Black's films prove that realistic violence is almost slapstick. It's messy, awkward, and it hurts, and because of that sloppiness, it is comedic. Comedy is built on the unexpected, the abrupt, and in Schadenfreude, the pleasure of witnessing another person's misfortune. Thus, my film's rhythm is built upon placing Gal in increasingly painful, unsavory, and nauseating situations in which her character develops. This notion of character development through punishment is lifted from Reefer Madness, in which drug-addled miscreants are punished for their cannabis use. The high school students in Reefer experience manslaughter, suicide, attempted rape, and hallucinations, all to teach audiences a lesson. However, Vomit lacks the staunch political stance of Reefer, and instead uses this abuse to reflect the ignorance is bliss mantra of the 21st century, as her predicament is brushed off by those around her, as well as to force an inherently narcissistic and selfish character to put others before herself. And this leads us to the final cult film element. In this line, DJ alludes to the central premise of the film. Young women are being kidnapped and raped by a government-funded research organization in order to conduct experiments on their babies, all in an attempt to cure degenerative diseases. And if this wasn't dark enough, the film ended by portraying the facility in a sympathetic light through its creator's tragic backstory. This perfectly exemplifies the film's dark morality. I've always believed in the notion that the ultimate test of a protagonist is to take the character to the brink of human decency and yet still make them likable. This is perfectly encapsulated in Heathers, as two high school lovers murder cliquey twits. As Gal breaks into houses, guts puppies, and runs from the police, questions arise. Is Gal despicable? Is there a degree of likability? Do you empathize with her choices or scoff at her selfishness? Some audiences will respond, and others won't. That is the essence of morality in cult films. The audience is not in a safe place anymore. The blacks and whites are gone and they sit naked, forced to create their own moral compass. I dare you to watch Heathers and not find glee in JD's increasingly twisted machinations. There are other references littered throughout, making Vomit the perfect way to spice up your Easter basket, but revealing everything would just spoil the fun. The key to the essence of a Shane Black film, and by extension a cult film, is that it doesn't matter what is happening on screen. It can be morally unjust, disgusting, convoluted, or cringe-inducing. Audiences come back. No matter how subversive the plight of the characters, audiences are entertained, and will love the film for taking risks and challenging them. That is what I set out to achieve with Vomit. But the good news is, if I've failed, well, I've succeeded. Thanks for joining me. Now go have a God moment or something.